like 2015, sorry, summer, spring, I can't even get this right, of the North American LCS.
The LCS.
I'm David Freak Turley. It's the LCS, got that one right. Still in North America. Along with my awesome, correcting me, caster compatriot, Joshua Jet Leesman.
I wasn't correcting you to anything. I was just saying that it was
You're helping
2015 North American League of Legends split.
You're at least helping me not stumble through.
Yeah, I mean, we are a casting team.
That's
so
true.
Looking forward to this.
And I appreciate
It's been a long time since you and I have cast together. So
it's been.
Could be good.
Since last year, at the very least.
Yep.
Yep. Well, guys, it's going to be a whole bunch of fun. The action continues now. Cloud9 versus Gravity. And today is an opportunity for both of these teams to rebound from day one losses that, honestly, neither of these teams expected.
Yeah, you can absolutely say that. I mean, on the faces of Cloud9 yesterday, you could see how hard that loss hit them, and kind of for good cause. Even though they have been together for such a long time, they'd actually never had a day one loss, and they specifically do not like to lose to TSM. But they kept getting outmaneuvered by TSM. Bjergsen got that one kill onto High, and from there, that singular advantage was just carried through so heavily on Cloud9. And it was strange because it almost looked like the team lost, which is a very rare type of loss for Cloud9.
Yeah, so well played by TSM. C9 going to have to bounce back from this. We're going to see if they can leave that defeat behind, coming out strong today against Gravity. Now, Gravity is a team that many considered the strongest of the new teams to win their way into the LCS, but they did not look that way yesterday.
You're absolutely right, because the last time we'd seen them before yesterday was at the expansion tournament where they completely crushed their way through. But if we look back on that game, there wasn't really anything redeemably positive about that performance yesterday. It was just bad for them.
Yeah.
And they completely have to bounce back. They have to dismiss that game altogether and walk into this one with a fresh peace of mind.
So we see if they can do that against one of their toughest competitions in the entire split of Cloud9. Now, C9 say that they are constantly trying to improve their game, and that includes adapting some of the lessons from Worlds for the NALCS.
We're basically the only team that hasn't really changed. I'm definitely excited to see how we're gonna compare to all the new teams, because basically every other team is a new roster.
We still work well together, so there's no reason to change our rosters.
Well, the biggest change we've had during the offseason has been moving. We moved up to North Cal from LA. We think more seriously about the games that we go into because we have to fly down every week for it rather than just drive and go back home.
And it just gets you in the mentality of just taking the scrims very seriously and making sure we don't waste any time. I was pretty happy with how we did last year at Worlds.
We learned a lot about how to play as a team, really. And we've taken that to our practice and been trying to apply it and trying to get better.
A lot of what we did in Korea was just learning that every time we see someone, they're not actually alone.
They're going for Acorn. It's going to be a tower knife.
He's not by himself. He's got his entire team behind him. They can be there at the snap of a finger.
In comes Daddy as well. They're trying to get the hell out of there. It's a double kill for Samsung Blue.
Going forward, our goal is definitely to do better than we did last year. It's the beginning of a new year. It's a completely new patch.
I'm pretty excited for the LCS season to start again. It's been a while since I've seen my comrades in combat.
Well, Cloud9 looking to do better than last year, and last year was second place in North America, so there's exactly one spot on their minds.
Yeah, and they also want to do better than they did yesterday, and
True.
it starts here.
Yeah, well, if they can beat out TSM and everyone else, see if they can do that now today against Gravity. Let's check out the starting lineups, because on the blue side, it is Cloud9 in their home colors, Balls in the top lane, Meteos in the jungle, High in mid, Sneaky on AD carry, and Lemonation at support.
And on the red side, it is Gravity, with Hanser in the top lane, Old Man St. Vicious in the jungle, Keen in mid, Cop on AD carry, and of course, the explosive Bunny Fufu on support.
We'll see if he gets his thresh in this game, one of his better champions for sure, something that kind of everyone watches out for.
Yeah.
Now, Gravity early game was very rough last time around. I think it's something that actually both these teams had a bit of a rough time in. So a lot of great ganks by Winter Fox set Gravity far behind. They never recovered.
Yep.
Bjergsen solo killing High, where he was so respectful of a Rek'Sai gank, he kind of, I would say, misplayed the lane, let Bjergsen get in on him.
Yeah.
And then they never came back from that either.
Yeah, for Cloud9, their side lanes were playing very well. The lane swap worked out for them. But yeah, High had the Fizz over Ahri last game. And I was actually talking with Charlie after the day, and he said, yeah, Fizz wins that matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Except High was just over-respecting Rek'Sai, because every single time he wasn't willing to actually pull into Ahri, which is what you need to do to win that matchup, because he thought Rek'Sai was going to be there. And it ended up putting him under his turret and eventually getting solo killed. And then that strength from TSM kind of cost him the game.
And it's actually a little bit strange to me that he had to respect Santorin so much in this game high, because Cloud9, one of their biggest strengths as a team, especially North America, is the fact that they ward so darn well. They seem to have such good vision coverage that they typically are able to track the enemy jungler. Meteos does a good job of that himself. Their deep wards typically see where the enemy jungler is running around. The fact that they never got tabs on anyone, they were always so afraid to play aggressively and push an advantage high specifically, that's atypical, and of course was a big factor in that loss.
And that's, I'm sure, what they talked about afterwards. Cloud9 normally is the team that doesn't mess around when they're playing these League of Legends games, and they're able to close out games against inferior opponents fairly quickly. That had been the case until Summer Split of last year, when they actually started playing to the level of their opponents, which is something they really have to watch out for here. Since Gravity did not look very good yesterday, they need to show themselves to be the superior team. And for Gravity, it's a chance to try and be a giant killer.
Yeah, we'll see if they can do that. Of course, Cloud9 is a team that started their season out 0-2 against Complexity, for example. As you talked about, playing down to the level of their opponents, you don't expect C9 to drop these types of games. Gravity going to hope for a performance much like that. Jarvan going away from St. Vicious. Let's see, Cloud9 still do have smiles on their faces as they start picks and bans.
There are so many things that these teams want to ban, and there are a ton of different strategies you can use coming into this. Because you just start listing off the champions that could be banned. You're thinking, all right, Sivir, Annie, Rek'Sai, Gnar, Kassadin, Lissandra, LeBlanc. Like, it goes on and on. Rumble, maybe even a Lee Sin or something. It's too many to ban. So at that point, you really just start having to strategize which champions do you know, power pick-wise, that you can play the best, or which champions do your opponents know the best that you want to deny. And these are just looking like fairly generic bans on both sides.
Yeah, so far that is the case. Val's pulling his fair share of attention, though. 2 of the 3 bans so far aimed at him, but this is a man I feel like we see adapt quite well to the times. Whether it's a tank or a mage, he seems to perform quite nicely, especially by NALCS standards. Hauntzer, a name that many of you guys don't know very well. When he was on LoLPro over in the Challenger Series, was one of the shining stars of that lineup. And now, his LCS, not quite debut now, his second game though. A player I expect to do well.
And amazingly, a Fizz ban over Rek'Sai. That's actually a name we didn't even mention when we were going through the pluritude of champions that are bannable. Kassadin as well coming through for Gravity. I think that Rek'Sai is an overpowering pick in many circumstances. We'll get to see if Meteos has had time to practice it enough, since it's just banned all the time in solo queue.
You only get so many solo queue practice games there. Morgana going to get picked right away for Bunny Fufu here. And the early Kassadin pick also blocks a lot of the potential mid laners that High would want to play, such as a LeBlanc. Typically consider Kassadin very good in this matchup. Also considering that Rek'Sai is a flex pick, and I guess we just don't see her played top lane much, I still think that chance exists. But it's always something that I want to keep in the back of my head whenever I see this champion picked.
This is the 5.1 patch that we're playing on as well. And to me, the pre-nerf Q top lane Rek'Sai really put her over the edge. I'm getting it this time.
Yeah.
I'm going to be calling Rek'Sai
I'm hearing you.
The majority of the game. Not making any promises. But yeah, when she did more damage up top lane like that, it was more overpowering there. I think now it's the mobility and the vision control that is really making it a big thing. And with Sion there, it's pretty much guaranteed in the jungle.
Yeah, virtually guaranteed in this one. So Janna also comes through for elimination. Happy to play this game with a very well-rounded lineup, some disengage, a big tank there, and a great early game jungler. And the crowd is chanting for Gravity, because why not?
Who wouldn't want to see
Urgotheimer?
St. Vicious is also, in the expansion tournament, the player to bring out the most off-the-wall junglers. His jungle Karthus was actually very impressive in one of the games.
Yes.
So the door is open for them to do things, even though Lee Sin is up. They're taking their time with this for sure.
Yeah, and Hauntzer also knows he's facing a Psy on top. They could leave the rest of their lane matchups as blind picks, but looks like they're right away going to show off what they're playing here in the rest of their matchups. It seems like they're just going to really wait on Hauntzer's pick, because maybe they flex that Kassadin up there. Saint will play Vi, and Cop will play Corki. Probably his best champion.
Yeah, Cop getting Corki this late into the draft is quite solid, considering that Sivir is already banned away. That's typically what people have been playing against Corki, is the Sivir for the spell shield on the phosphorus bomb as well as the teamfight utility. it'll leave Sneaky to pick something else. And to talk to your Kassadin point a little bit, I actually almost default to thinking it's going top lane.
Yeah,
At
really.
this point. I see so many top lane Kassadins really do well.
Ooh, well, Sneaky's going to be well protected in this lineup. And maybe Kassadin's going to be a big threat there. And also a Black Shielded Vi being very hard to peel. I just kind of thought about that. Gravity might have had a really good read that Cloud9 needed some kind of high damage carry up there. And they've got potential for this one.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting little back and forth here since Orianna and Janna plus a front line of Sion Rek'Sai is a really hard AD carry to get to.
Yes.
And even though, yeah, Vi and Kassadin can guarantee you get to them, with the shielding that can come out, I don't know if it's enough to actually kill it.
That's a fair point.
I kind of like that amount of protection Cloud9 threw into the last few picks. And Gravity, if they do this Zed, is just going all in on actually killing the Kog'Maw.
Yep. Well, Cop, thankfully for himself, he's on Corki because he's got no protection almost at all for himself. Gravity have a lot of ways of going in, and we'll see if Cloud9 can make them go back out.
Really like it.
Yeah.
This creates a very tense level of power between the two teams, because if Gravity can actually get a little bit ahead and Cloud9 is unable to shield their carry, it'll swing completely in Gravity's direction. But I feel like as soon as Cloud9 gets a little bit ahead, they would just be able to steamroll, since Gravity is really relying on assassination here.
They're very short range. There's very weak wave clear here with Zed and Corki trying kind of mediocrely to kill off minion waves if the pushes do happen to start here. Cloud9, great defensive tools on their own. So yeah, I think a difficult battle for Gravity. They have that one trigger that they can pull.
And how in the world is Corki going to shred through Rek'Sai Sion?
Nope.
I know he can do some decent stuff, but he's like a poke, magic damagey, split damage AD carry that AoEs. You're not getting any of that stuff past a Monster Sion.
Yeah, from what I hear from the other pro AD carries, they do tend to say Corki does more damage than you think late game. The true damage passive actually, I think, very underrated on the champion. You just have guaranteed damage output against a champion like Sion with a Frozen Heart and a Thornmail. But yes, Trinity Force users a bit lower in the DPS scale. Sorc Shoes users lower in the DPS scale. I do agree with you that the front line's going to be a bit tanky here.
I think Charlie, in my opinion, came out on the winning side of that pick and ban phase, but
yeah, I tend to agree
the game
with you.
Besides that, for sure.
Well, we're going to be checking in throughout the game to see who you think is going to come out on top. Tweet your real-time reactions to @LOL Esports. Use the hashtag C9win or hashtag GVWin to let us know who you think is going to win this game. And we'll see if the picks and bans determine all of it. Likely not, of course.
Every time we show this crowd shot, I just see Reginald cheering in full view of everything. It's going to happen all season.
He's even the backdrop of like half our interviews. It's great. Reggie's always featuring in every side stage interview.
Reginald is omnipresent in the North American LCS.
Certainly one of the players with the biggest impact overall. I think it's fitting. Mito's defensive ward, they would have seen that it got warded. Ooh, they got it too. So Gravity get to be once again in the darkness. And they're going to be able to get pretty good ward coverage over the Western jungle. Keen able to watch for invades on his own right.
Yeah, it looks like Gravity's scouting the lane swap. Cloud9 had such a great lane swap open against TSM. It would be unsurprising for them to do it again, especially considering it is a Kog'Maw against a Corki. I think Corki wins that matchup pretty handily in a 2v2.
Yeah, the one thing that I do want to think about, and you're right that Corki is going to be able to beat Kog'Maw in most matchups, I do actually like Janna against Morgana, because the attack damage buff, as long as you can dodge Dark Bindings, means your AD carry is better than their AD carry because you have a Janna shield. And so I actually consider this matchup closer as long as you can dodge Bindings, and of course that is a big if. Also, it's the first time I've seen base Morgana since the patch, the texture update. Everyone runs skins on her. But that's a significantly improved base model.
Absolutely. I wonder how long these guys are going to be splitting jungle, because I have seen, and I actually rather like it. Notice how Bunny Fufu is running back to the top lane now. I don't think that's necessary.
Nice.
Everyone's
Balls
like, how did
Barbin.
balls die to the Raptors? It's a plan. Yeah, he kills it faster if he executes himself, actually, because he gets the attack returns passive, hits level 2, revives very quickly at base, and can immediately teleport to lane.
And it's the same plan as the first time for Cloud9. Balls immediately TPs top lane and tries to just absorb experience. Now, Corky Morg does have threat here. And Balls has to be aware of getting jumped on. I mean, Dark Binding's been learned here.
Does everyone
up
in
there too?
Fantasy with Balls just lose half a point because he did Raptors?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hey, he gets 4 CS for it, though. So they lose 0.46 points.
Well, there we go. He's already making it back.
I'm just, wow. Yeah, he's able to be so relentless here. And there's
Yeah,
just
I wonder how
no threat.
much he's going to shove out. I mean, because he was able to get level 2, and then Sion actually has very good distant wave clear skills. I wonder if he's going to be able to continue to CS because of his level advantage in that lane, even if he's gotten the lane shoving the other direction. That'll be really interesting to watch for.
True. And he did just get a friendly ward down from the recall to watch for any jungle ganks. It's not even a good way for Saint to jump on him. Binding, will it come out here? Is it even up? Yes, it is, and that's actually the big risk because Ball's gonna die. Yep.
There goes another half point in Fantasy. That's too bad. Really, Balls overstaying right there, unless it's all just a brilliant CS strategy.
He got 3 more.
With his 15 CS, it's not worth the kill giving up on the other side. That's 400 gold to Bunny Fufu, which can litter the map with wards this early on in the game.
Yeah, he had the dodge of Binding for that to be worth it. If even just flash it or something. Didn't happen. Great play by Gravity. And this slowly farming Hanser is maybe going to have an okay game now.
Yeah,
Since
it's true.
Balls
We
are
always
pretty
have to
big.
look at the other side of the coin in these lane swap scenarios. And keeping a Kassadin down early game is typically more valuable than keeping a Sion down early game, just because it takes much longer for Kassadin to crest into a useful champion. And at 5 CS at 4 minutes and 15 seconds and only level 2, Kassadin's nowhere close to being useful.
No, not at all. I mean, even the value of levels, I think, is lower than it is on Sion, where he's going to get all his tank stats, whereas Kassadin's abilities barely even gain damage by ranking up. Like, he really is so gold dependent as a champion. And this elimination, great bind. Here comes Saint as well. A lot of good burst. Lemon forced to use his flash.
Yeah, he had yet to skill up his Tornado, so his peeling ability was non-existent right there. And the lane swap roaming early game by Gravity is actually doing better than what Cloud9 has thrown out in a lot of scenarios.
What's impressive, though, is despite getting a 600 gold first blood, the game is only less than 100 gold apart. So the farming for Cloud9 is making up for that death. Meteos spots Bunny Fufu. That's an easy knockup, and uh-oh, Morgana's got to be real careful. Gonna flash the wall. Now Hans is forced to run away, too.
Trying to keep that support away from Hanser as much as possible. You can definitely see the focus early game on Cloud9 right now is on keeping Hanser out of the game. And on Balls, just being very aggressive with his CS. He is not backing down, especially now that he knows Morgana is gone. So he bullies Cop right out of that lane with that minion harass, or the scream harass that he has.
Yeah, seriously, just shouts at minions, and it does a lot of damage to people behind it. And with Meteos actually tilting that bottom lane that should have been a fair 2-on-2, since top lane should be a fair 1-on-1, makes it even easier for the Freeze to continue against Hanser. 7 CS now. He's practically got less than the supports. Not a great start to Gravity. Cloud9's, by the way, winning by 300 gold now, despite being down a kill.
I mean, this is one of the reasons they continue to force lane swaps. Even in the North American playoffs, they were lane swapping frequently when almost nobody else was. And they continue here. Despite giving up first blood, they have again accrued a 400 gold advantage.
Now the turret a bit under fire. Hanser taking poke as well. And of course, Morg can't stop any of this. If you're behind a minion line, Morgana's not going to push you out of lane in any way whatsoever. Meteos taking up the water hamster. A little bit of vision for the top lane.
He had fantastic river control early on in the other games as well against TSM. He's really focusing those scuttle crabs early on in the game. It's worth it. It gives you control over roaming in a lot of ways because it makes your warding much more simplistic with the guaranteed ward in the river, as well as giving 85 gold per time he kills it, 50 for the kill and 30 from his jungle item. The jungler who controls those generally wins the early game if you're also able to clear the rest of your jungle.
And so far, so good. 27 to 23 CS. Meteos hasn't been slacking in terms of farm. In fact, practically level 6 here. Saint forced to leave his own jungle on what would have been a strong side of the map. And nope, Meteos just...
He knows where he is.
Boards, control over the blue buff. That, of course, will spawn soonish. C9 already ready to fight for this. Bunny Fufu only level 4, but there comes the engage. High gonna take a lot of damage. Shockwave will hit, but is it enough? No, St. Vicious picks up 1. Now here comes Deathmark. Will it be more? This is pretty dangerous. Balls gets 1 thanks to a teleport and an ultimate. Elimination survives as well. What a great fight for Cloud9. Actually 2-2, I take it back, it's equal.
Yeah, and Cloud9, I think, thought they were much safer going in there, considering the fact that Balls was able to teleport down, and Cop would be trapped up there as an AD carry. But based on the fact that High really got jumped on at the start of this fight, before Meteos could get off any good burrow ability, destroyed them. As he's using a Shockwave, it is pretty much his dying breath, so he doesn't get to use his spell rotations. Not to mention, I think Bunny Fufu was a little bit ahead of Elimination on that, so he gets there as well. And they salvage 2 kills out of getting caught in the jungle there.
Yeah, but of course, what you didn't see in that fight was the fact that Cop was top lane, farming up, knocking down that top turret quite a bit, and he's going to have most of his sheen because of that recall. And again, they went 2-2 in a 4v5. That's not bad for Gravity at all.
It's definitely a big improvement over what happened to Gravity yesterday against Fox, where Keen was ganked relentlessly by supports and junglers again and again. Now, not to say Keen's performance was great in the laning phase. One thing we weren't able to talk about during that lane swap and the gold lead that Cloud9 had been able to get was that High was out farming Keen by a pretty good clip. That's actually equalized now because Keen was able to pick up that kill during the skirmish in the jungle. And now, since High is yet to itemize any armor, Keen can start asserting a little bit of dominance in that lane.
Yeah, Cutlass done. No major defensive items at all for High. Just some ability power that makes his shield better. Not exactly a big boost. Meteos so far has saved the Rek'Sai ulti, not to get around the jungle too fast, but maybe he will find a gank on that champion. Both blue buffs have been transferred successfully. And so far we stay in a holding pattern as the lanes go back to their generally expected allotted champions.
And now we have to track how Haunter's able to farm against Balls Asylum. Cassidy is pretty good at CSing under turret. It'll be a matter of whether or not Balls can get harassed down beforehand. As you mentioned yesterday, those Rek'Sai screams are some of the most anticlimactic things in League of Legends.
At least Sion misses or hits something and it's exciting either way. Rek'Sai just shows up and goes, all right, Raptors, let's go.
Time to farm. Speaking of which, I actually think Meteos is going to be looking for some engagement shortly. He did the classic Rangers Trailblazer while he's farming, and then when it became time to upgrade to his Warrior Enchantment, he's gone with the Chilling Smite option. And that is the item for Rek'Sai. It allows him to close the distance and get the knock up with ease.
That's going to be a good thing for Meteos then. Got plenty of rage. Going to be able to fight quite nicely here. Despite being 0-1, I think life goes okay. And of course, you can see that Cloud9 intended for all these lane matchups to exist. You notice that Balls' first item pickup was, in fact, Spectre's Cowl, expected to be fighting Kassadin, not a Zed, not a Corki.
Knew
that actually fell right into Cloud9's hands, by the way.
Knew it would swap back eventually, and also because Dragon will become an objective that Gravity wasn't going to want Corki up there forever, otherwise they would basically just have to forfeit those things based on the teleport advantage. So a smart item choice there, but the question will be now how well they can capitalize on this, you know? We saw yesterday when Meteos was spending that time top lane, mid lane started losing, and they weren't able to get much done. The classic synergy between Meteos and Balls was kind of non-existent yesterday, and even though they swept this ward, they still know Meteos is in the brush because there's another one there that they're not accounting for.
Exactly, and Saints kept himself on the top side of the map, knows he hasn't been spotted himself because he's got the Raptor buff on him, so no wards have spotted this Vi. However, Cloud9 get cold feet. They see, hey, upper jungle's cleared. Saint was here recently. They get some wards down, that's nice, but otherwise that just stalls out.
Definitely a subdued game. It's interesting in the fact that Cloud9 seems to have been playing the lanes better, but Gravity is capitalizing on more of the small advantages that Cloud9 is presenting, or basically punishing Cloud9 for some of their over-aggressive moves. Balls in the top lane, and honestly, even though Cloud9 could have had an advantage in the jungle fight that High perished in, they were not properly grouped to display that type of aggression.
Yeah, the fact that Gravity, I do just want to call back to the fight because it was so good, immediately, without hesitation, went in, You had a flash vault breaker for St. Vicious. The Zed came in right away. The binding was there. They just jumped on the first guy they saw in the invade. Gravity definitely not looking shaken from the first day's loss.
And it's somewhat to be expected. There are a fair number of veterans on this team, Cop and St. Vicious, as the leaders of this team. Yeah, nothing's happening. Just some Krugs. But honestly, this point in the game is when Gravity is going to have to get some farm onto their assassins. The gank from St. Vicious needs to work. I think he should probably be working on Keen the most. Try and combo a kill onto high if they can get there without being counter-ganked. That's the fear, because Rek'Sai is so good at counter-ganking. I don't think Sion's a gankable lane for them right now. And if the game continues at this clip, it does seem like the protection that Cloud9 can offer Sneaky's Kog'Maw will kind of grant them an ultimate victory. So it's not Cloud9 that needs to be pressing here.
Well, that's one thing to watch then is Gravity. Can they keep the aggression going? High so far feeling safe despite being in the face of a couple of wards, but he's got teammates to make sure nothing bad happens to him. Though Gravity holds control of vision over Dragon, that might not mean much. Cop loses the recall. And Cloud9 really happy just to toy with these guys and make these fairly slow, minorly safe, aggressive plays.
Yeah.
400 gold lead for them despite being down a kill. Again, I have to just stress that there's literally 1,000 gold lead from the laning phase that Cloud9 have created.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll turn their eyes towards Dragon Control, or they're willing to just kind of ignore it and wait for the other guys to do it. Yesterday we ended up seeing a pretty big difference in strategy. Some teams not able to go for Dragon, other teams heavily prioritizing it.
Yeah.
And I've actually kind of been waiting for two teams with the same mindset on Dragon, that they only want to take it if it's free or if the other team is taking it as a counter, to meet against each other, because then no one's actually going to be doing Dragon until about 20 minutes, since they'd both just rather counter. There's that mid lane game.
There's a hard engage, a lot of ultis burned, shotgun comes in, but it is not going to be enough. St. Vicious gets the kill despite a death mark. Balls shows up, Saint can just hop the wall though, does so safely. Meteos also forced to retreat. Ball's not going to die here, but you said get some kills on Assassins, there's the start.
And they burned everything. They brought the house at high right there. Flash on Saint, flash on Keen, and they are able to close down the kill, meaning next time there will be no flashes all around the park. So they should be able to do that again as soon as ultimate cooldowns are back.
3 flashes, 2 ults for that one. The flash is going to be 5 minutes away, but hey, 1 kill at a time, maybe that's fine if Cloud9 refuses to play aggressively and make you pay for those cooldowns. Ball's going to stay and actually roam himself towards the bot lane, interestingly enough, because they've sent Sneaky top to, I presume, continue bowling Cassidy.
It's interesting. That's going to really hurt their Dragon control. But as I was mentioning beforehand, they're not necessarily caring about the Dragon that much. And yeah, the turret pressure could be the critical thing. One thing that can stop St. Vicious and Keen from returning to that mid lane gank would be if they can kill the outer turrets and get some deep wards inside the Gravity jungle with safety. They already have that one on the side that Saint was just there. You can see Rek'Sai and Janna over on the other side getting that vision control, doing their best to protect the mid lane.
Well, you had mentioned the bottom lane matchup at the beginning of the game, and I know Kobe and I talked briefly about Sneaky and Lemon, how Lemon a very underrated support in this duo lane, one of the scariest. These guys, despite being on late game champions, a comp you typically want to wait for the late game for, have by themselves primarily taken down 2 turrets. The bot lane in a 2-on-2 matchup that they now have won, the top lane from the rotation. They don't care about this Dragon that Gravity are so keenly looking for.
Yeah, well basically because Gravity was not able to track the move up into the top lane, this was one of those gifted dragons that Gravity is just going to take. I don't think that was a prioritized dragon by Gravity for any means, but it's going to be nice to get that 6% attack damage and ability power, more so when they get a few more items.
Yeah, I think Keen's already going to have a good amount of help from that one. He builds a good enough amount of attack damage, and Zed does scale quite nicely on the stat. But you're right, as time goes on, that first dragon is worth a large bit more. And actually Saint, and this was actually a nice aggressive tunnel usage. Saint's getting jumped on. He's gonna go down. The flash on Burrow misses for Meteos, but who cares? That is Saint getting killed.
Well, it's gonna be a continued fight because they're collapsing.
Good shocker though. Hanser forced to flash away himself. 1 hit from Dead. He goes down. Nicely done. Sneaky on a double kill. And is Gravity really going to stay? Keen wants to, pokes him down. Ults on the high, who's got no mana. Bunny Fufu claims the kill secure. Keen still on the chase, some nice rockets, but Keen, one hit away, just limps out. Sneaky is ignited. Rockets still firing in. Gravity are certainly not done, but Meteos is going to try to turn this one around. Is it enough, though? The puddle. Bunny Fufu has got 3 kills this game and is a bit aggressive here. He binds Sneaky, but the
no
living
mana.
artillery forced them back away. This is a hectic fight.
What a battle those guys had on the side. By the end of it, Saints all the way on the other side of the map after respawning. It seemed like Gravity was just piling in mindlessly after the Cloud9 catch, but they were actually able to turn 2 kills out of it, thanks to some nice play from Bunny Fufu's Mord. You can see right at the start here, Saint with his exhaust didn't want to try and bring any damage. He could also not escape. He is making the call right there to have the fight turn around. That's why he would use his ultimate, and that's why Gravity tries to come in. But they don't necessarily account for high. The shockwave onto where Hanser Riftwalk was a huge turn there, and they really underestimated the damage of a Janus shielded Trinity Force Cogmon. But the fight and replay are so long, Cloud9's already back pushing the mid lane.
Yeah, so Zia had gotten 2. The fight ended with Gravity finding 2 more at the end of it all, so it went pretty equal, all said and done. But of course, when you've got 2 turrets and you've been outfarming all of your lanes, not to mention the 80 CS lead top specifically, Cloud9's ahead here. The Kog'Maw's going to push down this mid turret. 20 minutes in, the outer ring has already gone down.
And take what you will out of Balls dying once in the top lane early on in the game, and the failed invade between High's Orianna. The lane swap worked. It worked wonders for Cloud9 because of that monstrous discrepancy in Balls' CS and Hanser's CS. The Kassadin is required for the Gravity team comp to work.
Yeah.
They need Kassadin, Zed, and Vi all to be serviceable in order to shut down Sneaky. And the fact that Hanser is not even close means those 2 kills from Sneaky may turn out to be insurmountable as far as Gravity coming back in this game.
Yeah, and honestly, keep in mind, there is so much scaling available. Not just because it's traditionally Kog'Maw, that's how the champion works. Elimination's got a Magize, is likely not to die very much this game. That's going to be some more power, some bigger shields, some more heals that can't be pushed through. And we don't talk about it much. Cyan's an infinite scaling champion. He's getting a lot of farm up there on the champion. The highest in the game gets bonus health every time something dies. And will also be unkillable. They're going to try. They get some damage on a Sneaky. Meteos gets away a bit, but Sneaky very, very low. Shockwave catches something. Bunny Fufu really going in for this one. 1 kill picked up. Sneaky's going to be the second one. Wow, the assassins are working. Keen gets high as well. Everybody is dying. It's really only Balls left at the cost of 2 kills. Super worth it for Gravity.
Unbelievable that Gravity was able to get a continual flank. I mean, that's why they were picking so many divers. It was going to be that push and pull between the protection and the assassination, and this time the assassination gets a royal flush and they just destroy whatever Cloud9 had right there. I can't wait to see that fight again, but they are pushing their advantage off of those 4 kills.
Will they get turret number 2 for this one? Trinity Force BF Sword Corki is going to be a lot of damage. Zed with a Blade of the Ruin King, enough attack speed to make it even more. And yes, 2 turrets answered back. Gravity have equalized the turret score and equalized the goal.
Let's take another look at this one. I mean, he doesn't even land the binding, but because St. Bitches got his Q onto Sneaky and then the lockdown, they just couldn't work around the field. The shockwave from High, completely lackluster. That was needed to stop them down. And Balls was not there as a front line, so the Assassins could actually come clean through. Even with all the flanks warded, because Sneaky was a little bit too far forward, they were able to get that fight.
Wow.
This is a big blunder by Gravity, though.
We've seen this before. Cloud9 sneaking a very early Baron, of course. 5.1 the patch we're on here. Barons don't last too long.
Everyone on Gravity is bot lane.
No one guessed that was going to happen.
You have to wonder why. Yes, there was some lacking ward control. Dragon is not even up. We're 22 minutes into the game here. And Cloud9 is able to get a Baron to bounce back after that fight. The gold they just got from that pushes them slightly ahead of Gravity. And they're going to be able to recall really quickly and try and make it back for this Dragon.
But the one thing to keep in mind with this Dragon is, of course, it's a Baron buff team. Exhaust is back for elimination as well. Rek'Sai screams towards the top lane. Cloud9 not really that interested in contesting for this, it seems, whereas Gravity are right on this spawn.
Yeah, it's just Dragon number 2. So
sure.
It's not too big of an edge for Gravity. Cloud9 will happily trade the Baron for that Dragon. is what it looks like. Maybe they could have tried to rush head first into that, but after the fight they lost, they're sticking away from there. We got to be able to keep eyes on Keen in that next fight. It's crazy how much work he did. The amount of peel that was used prior to Keen going in on Zed was really what swung that fight. So Cloud9 now needs to have a higher appreciation for Keen's damage and use their peel on that, not necessarily on St. Vicious or on Kassadin.
And the thankful thing for Cloud9 as well is they managed to get the mid lane tier 2 turret as payment for that dragon. Gravity was behind them, the quick push happened, Baron buff minions, of course, great at taking these things down. There's so many different advantages trading back and forth. Not only are the comps so different, but split pushing definitely available here with the turret damage buff. This turret itself taking plenty of damage even without that. Cloud9 really knocking it down. Gravity, can they go in on this one?
They really want to, even though Cloud9 has the Baron buff. Now, they won't be regenning. That's a good amount of poke. I wonder how much they're going to be willing to commit on this.
Wow, Ball's at half HP. High also. You just lost the last fight. Unless you really think just exhaust elimination is the difference you needed to make this fight work, this is a risk for Cloud9 to stay out this far.
I think they realized that.
Yeah.
They backed away. Pretty good hold there by Gravity. Cop able to clear the waves.
Yeah, so one thing I do think might matter here, and I think it's because of how the comps interact, Dragon 2 means more than it does in the average game. Because there's a Zed who can win probably any 1v1 matchup in the game right now. Maybe not against Sion, but has turret pressure because of this Dragon buff.
It's not going to be until Baron is done for, because unless they are grouped up as 5, their entire base will go down.
Yeah.
They're really looking to set up a flank here that is Gravity. They need to be able to come in from multiple angles like they did in that last victorious fight. But since Cloud9 is up against the wall there's only 2 possible angles instead of 3.
Now they're going to run backwards and to the left. They know something's a bit amiss here. They actually pinged the warning. There's the ward, spotted out Keen. The artillery from Kog'Maw also, make sure they know he's there. And now Cloud9 have 5 of those 6 outside the base turrets. A few seconds left for the empowered recall. And Cloud9 have managed to capitalize really well off that Baron buff.
It's almost like the game is resetting a little bit here. Baron was able to take down several turrets. Gravity still sitting on their inhibitor turrets and an outer one on the bottom side. And we've seen a little bit of everything here. Gravity winning the majority of the fights, but only if they can get flank position. And only if High misses a shockwave. I think the next fight will place an even greater importance on the mid laners here. Whether or not High can put down a greater zone of protection with Orianna, or if the exhaust can shut down Keen, or if Cloud9 can just straight up heal him because he's a big threat now. There they go. They could get him.
Flash away. Ulti's
Not as
in.
clean.
Exhaust used on St. Vicious, but it does not seem to matter. He goes down right away. Here comes Zed. High takes a bunch of damage, already gone. Bunny Fufu, 2-man stun. The follow-through is there. Down goes Sneaky. Meteos the target. He's going to drop as well, but the cleanup from Balls might be just enough. Haunts are forced away. Cop chasing for Lemonation. That will be actually another kill. It's a 4-for-2. Gravity winning again.
Their dive is so relentless onto Cloud9 right now. That was not even a clean initiation by Gravity, and they still take another fight. 4-for-2. That is so worrisome for Cloud9.
I think there's a big fault as well, exhausting Vi instead of a Zed.
Yeah, absolutely. So right here, St. Vicious does not even land his Power Fist, gets almost no damage onto Sneaky. The exhaust didn't matter that much, and they kill him right away. But even the Janna ultimate was used prior to the initiation, far too soon. Gravity is relentless. Unless you peel the right initiation, it will not work. It meant Bunny could get in for the ultimate stun. It meant Keen could fly in. It meant Haunter could fly in. The peel was just used at the wrong time for Cloud9 in watching that fight again.
And High actually died so fast he couldn't even shockwave barely. It was about a quarter second from it going off. Got one shot by Keen on the Zed there. Man, if he were exhausted instead, that shockwave would have happened. So many ifs, of course, but not the case. So the relentlessness from Gravity is paying off. Kudos to them. And of course, Sneaky can't play any more defensively, really.
It's still a hyper close game, though. If Sneaky is able to get protected, and his damage is just going to keep getting higher. He's actually not doing an absurd amount of damage yet. He's not full Kog'Maw. and High may have a good fight yet. There was a really nice play by Keen in that last fight, basically going for High when everyone was expecting the focus to be going down onto Sneaky and taking him out of the fight. Cloud9's got to keep up the pressure, though.
All right, 6th turret goes down. Cloud9 not flinching from these losses. Zhonya's Hourglass now done on High as well, means now they can focus their attention on Sneaky, because High will not die to a death mark here if he plays his cards right. Savish is spotted on the wings. His ulti's back up. In fact, every ultimate is available for Gravity. Cloud9, same situation, though. Dragon up in 30 seconds. Cloud9 so far controlling the area. Oof, it'd be a nice boost in damage if they did get it.
Those 2 ults and an auto, I think, to take Keen to half health.
Yep. That's Triforce Cogma for you. It's going to do about that much damage.
Speaking of that second Dragon buff, giving more damage to turrets.
Yeah.
Hauntzer was able to do that split push, not only on the Zed, but on the Kassadin.
Yes.
An even safer split pusher, just not as threatening for speed.
And never forget what Cop can do on a Trinity Force AD carry. Those things are very good at killing turrets. But look at this. Cloud9 don't care about the Dragon. They're setting up Baron and daring Gravity to ever try for the Southern objective.
I wonder if Gravity would just give up another Baron. Take Dragon number 3, say we'll hold you and fight you if you try and come in. You can tell they're willing to take a few risks with the Baron Pit. They do have that nice ward in the river as Pop solos the Dragon.
Very nice. And that's Dragon number 3. More mobility. They can fall into these fights sooner. They're now 12 minutes away from Dragon 5, if that does become the case. Cloud9 can't give that up forever.
Yep, and the move speed's going to help them chase down and dive as well.
Yeah. I mean, they're already better split pushers. Now they can't even be caught as easily. I don't know.
Gravity actually in control here.
It's very impressive.
Putting Cloud9 in a real danger of starting season 0-2. Which would be unthinkable after watching them dominate IEM San Jose. Here they come.
Slow on a Sneaky. Will they go in? A rocket lands from Cop. Balls a very large tank. But yeah, he doesn't really feel any pain in this one. Level 15. Frozen Heart and Randuin's here. He's got some nice cooldown reduction, by the way, so a lot of spam available to him. He's actually been a decent damage threat in these fights. Yep. But the fights are so short-lived, it doesn't really matter what kind of damage balls can deal.
So tricky. Balls just needs to find a way to keep people in front of him. It's just Gravity went all in with that last pick Zed. They were going to skip the front line from Cloud9. That seems like their plan. It's been working pretty well. Just running straight for the squishies.
So far, so good. See if High can land one good shockwave. It was Bjergsen who beat him up in lane in the very first game of the split. And Bjergsen more or less hard carried TSM in the matchup. High here has missed, honestly, numerous shockwaves. He had a good early laning phase, but now 0-5 and 7. Hasn't kept himself alive in team fights. It's a bit of a worry for Cloud9. And now a Baron attempt. Now they get spotted going into the pit.
Yeah, this isn't a flank that Gravity would want. They need to get a flank of some kind on and get off that Baron.
It slows Meteos is going to get jumped on. He's got very little health. Flashed away. Now Gravity have taken quite a bit of poke themselves. The inside track in the mid lane is here for Cloud9. They could trade an inhibitor for Baron if they want right now.
Gravity's got to go back to base right now. Otherwise, Cloud9 could easily take that inhibitor. This forfeits control of the Baron Pit as well.
It does smash a giant minion wave on the bot lane, though, and look at this damage output. This could be the 6th turret for Gravity as well. Looks like some of the recalls have gone off. They will defend the base. Bot lane turret does go down as well. So, hey, Gravity got themselves a slow push bot lane, made C9 stick mid, made Balls TP top, got a turret for it.
This has turned into an incredibly close game. 3 dragons are the only differentiating factor, really. Even turrets, even gold, kills are close.
Wow.
And such great interactions between the team compositions as well. I can't say that enough. Gravity recognizing that Cloud9 had built a lot of peel, and then instead of trying to pivot at the last minute, just went even further into the same direction. Some would say if you do that, you can dig your own grave. But Gravity has played it properly. They're still in this one. And this Baron is probably theirs.
They're going to want to try, though. Baron goes down. It's been picked up. Ball's in the front line anyway, though. In comes Bunny. Flashes in. Looks for high. They're going to break all the shackles, though. Stun on St. Vicious. Now, how will the rest of this fight go? Sneaky, low on mana. Not much artillery available. Balls and Meteors on the front line, tanking up plenty. No assassinations yet happen. McKean has ulti. Goes in and a sneaky. Nice flash over the wall. Haunter. Zhonya's off on the side. Gets the kill onto high. 1 for 0 Gravity. And out they go. Down goes Sion. 2 for 0 Gravity. Cloud9 forced to run away.
Gravity just seems to be far too mobile for Cloud9 to keep their mitts on. That was as good as Cloud9 is going to get a fight, I think. They had the front line in place, trying to keep as many people back as possible. Zed flash ulted and then got peeled, but the flash away was straight into the midst of a Kassadin. And now with a Baron buff and 2 people dead, Gravity looking to take a big edge.
Absolutely massive. Baron buffed up. Inhibitor goes down in the mid lane. 4,000 gold lead in their pockets, and they've got Dragon number 4 only 2 minutes away.
What a way to bounce back. I mean, after Gravity
got destroyed,
steamrolled by Winterfox, a team that is running with 3 substitutes. It goes to show you how anything can happen in the LCS, and anything will happen in the North American LCS if you wait long enough for it. This is quite a performance here by Gravity, and honestly, some definite miscues by Cloud9. I think the early game team fights, the peeling was done improperly, and it's led to fights like this, where basically the initiation is not clean from Gravity. The front line is actually set up by Cloud9. Meteos and Balls are in the right place, zoning out St. Vicious, keeping them back. Morn can't do anything. But then this back line is too far separated from the front line. High gets nearly blown up by 1 combo, finished by the 2nd. All the while, people are trying to protect Sneaky. It just becomes too chaotic and too spread out. The conventional team comp from Cloud9 needs to stick closer together, but the mobility from Gravity and the fedness of Kassadin now, despite that lane swapping, getting to Zhonya's and Rod of Ages plus the Void Stab, it's just too much now. Kassadin has actually been able to achieve a proper level of farm thanks to the team fights going Gravity's way earlier in the game.
And it's just impeccable how they've managed to navigate this game. I think their champions individually are more self-sufficient. You talk about their mobility. I talk about the fact that Cop doesn't need peel. He can do it for himself, and there's no way a Sion threatens a Corki ever in the world of League of Legends. And Sneaky's got to be like, well, there's a Zed on one side, a Kassadin on the other, sits in the middle of the fight, lets High go down, and Gravity makes the fight so split up. It's amazing to watch them play this. Dragon's up now. This will be number 4. I can't imagine Cloud9 contesting this.
Definitely looks that way. They still have the Baron buff and an open front door to Cloud9's base with that inhibitor, which would make the flanking somewhat possible. But I'm very curious as to whether Gravity would be willing to dive on top of one of those inhibitor turrets. The amount of punishment that an assassin would take if Cloud9 can hold stronger to these turrets may be enough for a final fight, but Gravity's been very hard to dissuade from initiating in the past. Let's see what happens here. They lose their Baron buff, so it's very hard to siege out.
They have very few siege tools, so Corki does really high damage in short bursts, and actually he's not that catchable outside of a flash shockwave like onto Rek'Sai. I think that would actually catch Cop out, but that's kind of the only option I feel they have. And that said, Gravity do not have to play aggressively. In 6 minutes, they get Dragon number 5, and that could be all the siege tools they need. In 4 minutes, Baron respawns. That might be all the siege tools they need.
It definitely seems like at this point, they just need to take shots with Bunny Fufu's Dark Binding. And if one of them lands in 5 minutes, maybe they can get a nice turn. If it doesn't, then they go take Dragon 5.
Yep. They'll actually overlap. Dragon 5 and Baron will overlap. At least a little bit.
Interesting timing. Also, people on Cloud9 had to peel away to kill super minions, so they're getting as much damage out of these turrets as they can without fully committing.
Oh, boy, good Black Shield.
They took 2/3 of that turret. Doesn't look like Cloud9 is going to be able to hold this. Gravity may not have to wait for Dragon number 5. Not with all these waves. Cloud9 can't keep up with the wave management.
Not at all. Very nice by Gravity, splitting up, not getting caught out. The more I look at it, there's not a lot of reliable hard engage by Cloud9. Cyan can be dodged away from a black shield. Meteos has to flash on Burrow for a 1 second knockup. And you can just black shield whatever does get caught out here.
And while High would love to be able to land a shockwave, if he lets the ball leave his side for a second for protection, he's going to die. As we've seen in a few fights, Hanser just jumps on top and uses a spell combo, takes 3/4 of his health.
Very true. And a very large risk. Cobb with a Bloodthirster shield, able to hit inhibitor turrets whenever he wants. Last patch, that would have hit him. Hanser blows up High, by the way.
Speaking
that is a
of
top
which,
lane kill. Yep.
How did that happen?
The two of them showed up. High didn't see it coming. Zonia's wasn't even used in that, though. High
Fast.
having a very rough game. There's a second inhibitor going down. The bot lane still being sieged safely.
Completely Gravity's game to lose at this point, and then some. 2 inhibitors, maybe a third on the way because High is gone, and that turret is a few shots from death. This could be a triple inhibitor take by Gravity with ease.
Looks like it's going to be Cloud9 seeding that and letting Gravity take that third hit. Now the mid one has just respawned, so do Gravity stay for this? High's up in 10 seconds. Health bars have been slowly brought down just a little bit. Gravity are going to stay. Cloud9, will they contest?
You'd almost hope Cloud9 tries to fight out of desperation, but Gravity never even gives them a chance.
Nope. So triple and hit, dead throughout the Baron respawn. About the time Dragon comes back up as well, but this could just quickly be recall to base, buy some items, a Baron if you want, and ride some minions into the base.
We'll get to take a look at this High death as well. Yeah.
Wow.
You're not going to get to Zhonya's there. But once again, the ball was gone for half a second, and he got jumped on by 2 assassins. High not performing up to a Cloud9 level these first 2 games of the LCS. Getting pressured heavily by Bjergsen in game 1. And while he did have an early laning phase here, just not many plays on Orianna.
Wow.
Worth. They're going to have to rush this down super fast.
Well, they have a Blade of the Rune King
They have
Kog'Maw.
0 inhibitors. So
Yes.
even if this Baron just turns into an extended fight, super minions kill their base, and they're caught in the Baron pit. This is going to be ugly.
All Gravity need is time. All they need is for the minions to win them the game. Cloud9 jump in on Saint, but he is tanky. Balls gets hit by a Baron. He's lost a lot of armor. Keen from the back line. Ults on a Sneaky. Nice ulti by Elimination, but it's not going to be enough. Down goes almost all of Cloud9. There is no way to get out of this one. Sneaky is going to be the 4th casualty. Balls chase whatever down he can, but minions are already in the base. Hanser's going to TP in. This is GG.
Gravity takes down Cloud9 in shocking fashion, honestly. Cobb 5-0-11, Keen 7-2-10 against High in the mid lane. What an upset.
Cloud9 starts the season off 0-2 in the first week. Gravity bounces back from an crushing defeat in game 1, only to take down Cloud9 in their second one.
The fan vote was 92% on Twitter earlier on in the game. I bet you the one online may have even been higher because honestly, Gravity, after their loss to Winter Fox yesterday, looked like the worst team in the LCS. And today they showed a high level of coordination. They picked double assassins and a Vi full dive against Janna, Orianna, and a strong tank line. Things that don't really seem smart at first glance, but they made it work.
I gotta say, these guys picked up a new coach weeks ago. No other support staff. Went for an incredibly ballsy composition where there's no fallback pattern. You've got to be able to just pick fights and win them. They were even down in gold. They were getting pushed in. They lost the lane swap. All of these things that you expect to be inflicted upon you when you face Cloud9. And Gravity did not flinch. 22-8 in kills. I mean, they just stopped dying after a certain point.
They really did. Once the dive started working, what's going to kill you? We said in Champ Select it was going to be a make-or-break game in either direction. If Cloud9 could avoid the flanks and repel the assassinations, they were going to crush. But if the assassination started working, they're literally killing the damage dealers. So what is ever going to kill them back?
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened. Balls was left there to watch as his carries were mercilessly slaughtered by Zed and the Cassidy.
Yep, a team high on mobility, simply split everything up, dive into the back line, kite the tanks as you need. Balls, despite getting a crushing lane couldn't do anything in fights.
A 90 CS lead on Kassadin at one point.
Yeah, and Kassadin had more to do in that game than Sion did.
Yep, it really is.
Yeah.
He couldn't keep the opponent in front of him, which Sion is one of the most counter-playable champions in League of Legends.
Yeah.
All of his things are skill shots. Everything is dodgeable. And if you bring a mobile enough team composition and you play it properly, you can make him feel very ineffective. And that's what ended up happening here with Gravity. Kassadin, Zed could fly right past. Vi was able to flank around. Black Shields and Corki.
You can just face tank his ult with the Black Shield. You like walk up and say, nice knockup, bro, and then just turn around and walk away. It's so great. Like this was great, and it was fun to see the picks that came out because it reminds me slightly of C9 versus Team 8, where you kind of let C9 get a lot of these highly contested champions. I would say they got
COG versus Team
8, and comparing it to this game.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I feel like Cloud9 got so many of these highly contested champions, the Rek'Sais, right, the Jannas, these champions that everyone wants to play all the time. And I don't feel like Gravity picked as many of those themselves. I could be off in this one.
Yeah,
People
I mean,
can
it's
disagree.
pretty much just the Kassadin. Zed is banned occasionally. Kassadin's a high ban, but it's kind of like 1 versus 2 in that sense.
Right, and then they said, no, we got the Morgana to counterplay everything you're doing. We're going to play full Assassins to basically deal with the fact that you've got Disengage. Beautiful game by Gravity. Absolutely wonderful win. For more on that game, we're going to send it down to Riv.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Great cast on the game, and a great game it was. Gravity pulling out of the win on Cloud9, which means they're 0-2. Saint, the guys looked good coming into today. What was the deal yesterday? What were the thoughts on yesterday's matchup?
Well, yeah, we can't beat Winter Fox's subs, but we can beat Cloud9. So I don't know what it is, but I think yesterday was just kind of, it was like a challenger game almost, where you fall to like an early roam and like really aggressive stuff, and then we tried to counter with aggression. When the right play is just to be safe and stick to your team comp and stick to what you know is right.
I want to ask you a little bit. When you left the LCS, there was a bit of that hiatus. You said you took some time to yourself to recuperate, reinvigorate. What was that time like, and what did you kind of do to put yourself back in this position to be ready and get back into the LCS?
Well, when I took the year off, I originally went in as a coach, but I only did that for like a year, or no, I only did that for like a week. What am I saying? But yeah, I did that for a week, and it didn't really work out for me because I don't think I knew enough about the game then. But taking a year off, I got to interview a lot of really good people. I got to interview like Lakers coaches, a whole bunch of different people on my show, and look at their coaching styles and then what they do. And I got to really research the game and just learn to be friends with everybody on the team and work together. And I think I grew a lot.
Yeah.
I think I grew.
You're trolling me now. All right. Why the mobility comp? What was this game about? Was it what you wanted against Cloud9? It's what you thought you could get around the table with? You guys controlled Dragons, controlled the whole game. We saw a completely different Gravity from day one.
I think it's more Cloud9's fault because it felt like they like disrespected us because they picked a 2 damage comp. Like all they have is Cog is non-mobile and Ori's non-mobile. And I already have Vi locked in, and we have Kassadin, and we can like pick. We had the counter pick on 5th pick, so I think Cloud9 really messed up in the ban pick phase.
You guys have Dignitas coming up next week as your first game. Going into that, what's kind of the first week going to be like after this? Now, is it R&R for you guys? Are you going to go and hone the strategies and skills? What's going to happen?
I mean, I'll probably go get some dinner. I hope Sugarfish. Pray to God, but. I love Sugarfish, but yeah, we'll probably just take a breather and then chill, and then we're gonna go back to scrimming on Monday. Like, not take any time off.
All right, on. Congratulations on the win. Best of luck in the rest of the season to Gravity, taking out Cloud9 to give them an 0-2 on the first week of the NALCS. Right now, we're gonna throw it down to the analyst desk, break that down a little.
Thank you, Riv. I have to say, I mean, the 0-2 start by Cloud9, uncharacteristic of them. The first time that's ever happened, and I have to agree with Saint in his point that I really feel Cloud9, fumbled there in the champion select. They ban away Jarvan and Gnar on blue side, all to pick Rek'Sai, and then end up with this 2 damage dealing comp that is fairly immobile, like you said.
Yeah, and a big part of that too is they picked up this composition after Morgana was picked in the first round by Gravity. It was really, really strange.
The only thing I didn't really like is the Sion in this team. And it wasn't just the pick of Sion. I don't like Thornmail on him because he's not the type of tank that has anything to force the enemy AD carry to attack you. He's full tank Sion, like they kept on mentioning. You can dodge all of his abilities. They're fairly slow. And especially if you have a AD carry that's got a built-in jump, it's usually pretty easy to get around him if he is like your main person trying to lock them down. And then he doesn't put out any damage. If you build something like anything else, like even a Tiamat, a Hydra or something, even if your Scion dies, he does way more damage when he dies. So
you're looking for Scion players to make their build the reason why their backline has to deal with you.
Yeah, have some sort of threat there with that tank, because a tank is all about only as good as, he can either zone the AD carry, which you have to have some CC abilities that are really threatening, or you're going to have some damage that you can deal with them. That situation, he didn't really have either of those. That being said, I love the way that Balls played the early game. He got giant CS lead, crushed it up there, gave away an extra kill just because he was so focused on getting so much CS.
Yeah, you're looking for the Iceborne Gauntlet on him. Make people, like a little more kiting for that to protect the Kog'Maw. That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, that Hydra, anything that gives you
Frozen Mallet, who cares?
But that too is also worrisome. The fact that he was up, as Jat said, at 1.90 CS. I mean, early 90 to 45, double the CS that early in the game is just humongous. It is worrisome that Cloud9 is struggling to take these early game advantages that they find themselves with and convert them to victories.
Yeah, they did it yesterday too when they had the better lane swap. They come out on top because they're better at freezing lanes and kind of making advantages there. But then when the junglers kind of get in the mix, it seems like the enemy jungler usually is just one step up over Remedios at these times, ganking the mid lane. And that's where we see these advantages coming from in these last two games.
I did feel kind of bad for Hai because he was doing really well in the mid lane, early levels, and then they take that little excursion into the enemy jungle following Medios that really turned it around, got them in trouble, and that was what, kind of all started the downpour there.
Right, immediately following, there was another gank mid. Everyone piled in on top of Hai. This is not to take anything away from Gravity, because if we jump to their side, day and night, the difference between their play yesterday, as Saint mentioned in the interview, their play against Winter Fox, where he felt it was very challenger level, like we're just going to bash our heads against the wall until it works or lose. And then today, a much more methodical approach to being behind and turning the game around.
The thing is, it was actually fairly similar. It's just that it worked this time when they went with the kills. They still went. He went super ham. He was flashing in. He would Q, then flash, then get the ultimate off, but they had the follow-up this time. 2 solo lane assassins. They have the damage. All that Vi has to do is hold down the AD carry for a second. He got to Sneaky. He would either get some summoners or something out. Even if Vi goes down after that, the assassins can easily take him out. And once the assassins start getting fed, that's where the team really shines. This is really just the difference between the aggression when they were too far behind to make it work yesterday, and they actually made the first step this time.
Let's pull a replay up because we've got a couple that kind of illustrate this point. We're going to go 20 minutes into the game. We're going to the mid lane, and Kobe, I'm going to let you take this one away. First example of Gravity kind of turning the game on its back in terms of retaking control.
All right, let's take a look. Midline. Oh yeah, here we go. So Saint's already charging up his Q, as you can see over in the side. Let's roll the clip. Flash Q there from Bunny, just barely hits Medios, but you can see Saint's eyes are always right on Sneaky. Cop is on the top side coming in as a flank. Jack kept mentioning the multiple angles that they were going to attack Sneaky from. You can see everybody swarming into that back line. And for this fight, Balls actually had to ult into it because he wasn't there at the beginning. So that's one of the only ways where San could be an effective front line is if he was already there and already being able to hit a slow and try and charge up his Q. Then he would at least have could take a whack at trying to peel for Sneaky and keep him safe. But this one wasn't even there. I like the immediate initiation from Gravity, no hesitation there, and they jump on the back line.
Yeah, and Hai ended up missing a shockwave there, only hit Bunny Fufu with it, and then he was completely out of mana and couldn't do anything from that point on. Also, I like how they're assigning their assassins. Keen is putting pressure on Hai, and then you have Hanser run in to get the slow onto Sneaky, and then he also has their their jungler, St. Vicious, on Sneaky as well. So they're dedicating 2 people to shut down that Kog'Maw, and then nobody really has anywhere to go with their damage threats at that point.
And it's so important that they also used Corki as their AD carry because he has the longest range dash as of AD carries, and he was almost a semi-assassin himself. Since Corki builds right into Trinity Force, a little bit more durable, and then he usually builds Blade of the Ruined King right after, so he's a little bit an assassin of AD carries as well. You can see he was fine coming in from a flank himself, that fight.
We're going to pull up our second replay and get right into it. Zyrene, I know you wanted to take this one away. 25 minutes into the game, mid lane, another great example of the commitment to the team fight by Gravity.
Yeah, and this is basically more of the same of what we were just talking about. You're going to end up seeing St. Vicious go with the hard engage, the flash, the Q, the R onto Sneaky, and then take the fight away from there. Well, it'll be pulled up on your screens in just a second here. All right, here we go. All right, so we can start rolling the clip right now because Saint is going to come out from Fog of War, flash, Q. Then he's like, well, I'm not done with you, Sneaky. R's in. And then they still assign their assassins in the same way. You're gonna see Keen right onto High. And then High, he gets so much pressure on him, he gets his shockwave off the animation, but it doesn't actually do anything. And then Morgana's in there, Bunny, Fufu, everybody's trying to run away, and he's just their extra insurance with the AoE slow. So I love the way they're splitting their assassins and going after the damage threats, and then it's just these tanky, moderately tanky cleanup here.
It's incredible how deep St. Vicious went into that fight in the beginning without, you actually notice the backup for that fight didn't come for quite a while. And it is that kind of like that decisiveness, but also how much it caught C9 off guard that prevented them from being able to deal with the initial threat of Vi in the backline.
And even so, you notice how close that fight was. And this is later in the game when Gravity are more fed. That fight that Cloud9 were actually set up to defend this one, and they were so close to actually pulling that one out. If the shockwave does go off, and they're able to get that split second of CC on both mid lane assassins, then they would have a much better chance in this one. Sneaky would have been able to take one person down. It almost worked out. I think that the small tip that they needed might have been an exhaust spell from High in the mid lane rather than an ignite. The ignite that he took didn't really help them that much getting any sort of solo kills or anything like that. And when you're against this many assassins, the more exhaust the better, because actually in that fight, Lemon used his on Vi, which didn't block very much damage. May have saved it for Zed, but if they had to, then High could have used it on
Yeah,
Zed.
I completely agree with that. And something else here too for Gravity is they had so many damage threats, but they were all of the hard engage. Cloud9 really had no way to start these fights because of the Scion and against the Morgana, so they were able to secure themselves every dragon because they went up to it and they're just like, all right, if you're going to come in and fight us, we'll peel off dragon, go immediately after you. We saw that when they were trying to contest Baron, that Gravity was in the pit and kept pulling off of it like, all right, Cloud9, you want to go? You want to go? You want to go? And every time Cloud9 was like, well, you know, we have to back off because we're kind of split. And then they do a perfect split on their assassins. Like, I can't praise Gravity enough for the way that they played this composition because it is very hard to do. And one of the only teams that I've seen being able to like pull it off effectively was like CJ Entus, not Frost.
One of the Blaze?
Blaze. There you go.
There you go.
They have Flame in the top lane.
Yes.
And, you know, all right.
CJ Entus Blaze.
And they no longer exist. So it's CJ Entus Blaze. They pulled it off when they had Akali, Zed, and Lee Sin, and they had triple assassin. I thought it was absolutely beautiful to watch. And then when I see it here from Gravity, I see little sparks of that.
Well, I have to say, a little bit worrisome from Cloud9. Two, you know, fairly solid starts in both of their games, but definitely falling off. You know, and coming out with losses across the week. And then, of course, over on Gravity, I have to commend them for really stepping up their play here on the second day of week 1, coming out of the week 1-1. Now we'll see if we're in for any more surprises today. After the break, it's going to be Game 5 versus Team 8 rather versus TSM. You're watching the LCS, and we'll be right back.
Game 5, Team 8.
So many numbers.
Action continues now. Cloud9 versus Gravity. But there comes the engage. High gonna take a lot of damage. Shockwave will hit, but is it enough? No, St. Vicious picks up one. Bunny Fufu really going in for this one. One kill picked up. Sneaky's gonna be the second one. Wow, the assassins are working. Keen gets High as well. Everybody is dying. Here comes Zed. High takes a bunch of damage, already gone. Bunny Fufu, two-man stun. The follow-through is there. Down goes Sneaky. Meteos the target. He's gonna drop as well.
Nice. Nice.
Kill him up. Cut.
Rek'Sai dead, Rek'Sai.
Cut. I'm pushing mid.
Nice.
Hell
In the game.